Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the very last character of Batch 2. And boy, I finally get to talk about this character. And so I'm saving the best for last. Yeah, that's right, guys. Today, I'm going to be talking about Michael Jean Carter, also known as the time-traveling, egocentric, but then later on, truly heroic Booster Gold. Now, let's not delay because Booster has quite a lot of history to get into. Now, his first appearance was in the very first issue of his own self-titled book, which was in February of 1986. And he was created solely by Dan Jurgens. And he's been part of the Conglomerate and the Justice League. Although I think he was also part of Justice League International, even though they somehow, for some odd reason, don't have that listed. And Extreme Justice, and a few other teams. His partnerships have been with Blue Beetle, both Jaime Reyes and Ted Kord. And Rip Hunter. He also took the alias of Supernova, which is actually the superhero name of both an ancestor of his, but also a future descendant even of Booster, who was actually the son of his original ancestor, which I don't get how that makes sense, but I'm not going to question it. Okay, he possesses advanced technology allowing him to fly, use power blasts, force fields, enhanced strength, and other abilities. He has slowed aging and peak human conditioning. Now, to elaborate a lot more on his powers, he also has led a legacy that he actually has a greater purpose than even he knows. And there's many different convolutedness stuff with the character, such as the fact that a futuristic Martian Manhunter reveals that he is part of the Chosen, and even his future self, who's an old man, and revealed to be the father of Rip Hunter. Yeah, I know, try to wrap your head around that one. Is actually trying to protect his past self from an unknown event in the future. Let's see. And that there's a Carter family legacy. Let's see. And yeah, and believe it or not, Booster's powers were actually from artifacts that he stole from the museum in the future. A power suit which granted him the super strength and wrist blasters. Let's see. He also would use a force. Also, the force field was actually from Brainiac 5. He had a Legion of Superheroes flight ring, which he used. I mean, I could go into so many details, guys, but there's a lot there, then a lot of it's convoluted. But basically, yeah, he stole a lot of stuff from the museum that he was working at. Now let's actually get into Booster's backstory. Now, believe it or not, Michael Jean Carter was actually born poor in the 25th century of Gotham City. 25th century Gotham City. He speaks Esperanto as his first language. He and his twin sister Michelle never knew their father because he left after gambling away all their money. However, Michael was a gifted athlete and attended Gotham U on a football scholarship. In college, he became a star quarterback until his father re-entered his life and convinced him to throw games. He would be exposed for this and would be jailed. On top of that, he would be disowned by his mother and sister, his mother disowning him, saying that he was no better than his father. However, It's revealed that Michael did this to try to make enough money to try to actually support both his sister and his mother. Also, he would then, after he got out of jail and his football scholarship and fame being pretty much being destroyed, he would end up actually working as a night watchman at the Metropolis Space Museum, where he studied displays of superheroes and villains from the past, as well as holotapes. And these were particularly in the 20th century, but with the help of a security bot named Skeets, his future partner in crime, so to speak, Michael would steal devices from the displays, including a Legion of Superheroes flight ring and Brainiac 5's force field belt. He would then use Rip Hunter's time machine, always on display in the museum, to travel to the 20th century. And he did this to intend on becoming a superhero and forming a corporation based around himself to make a comfortable living. He was also a shameless self-promoter whose obsession with fame and wealth often irritated other heroes, such as the likes of Superman or Batman. Carter's nickname as a football player was Booster, but his chosen 20th century superhero name was supposed to be Gold Star. However, after saving the President of the United States from an assassination, Carter, being, fumbling and being extremely nervous, shaking the president's hand, and knowing that he actually saved a life and worrying if this would affect the time stream as well, but not really much caring at the time, would actually mangle the two names together, causing the president, who at this time was Ronald Reagan, to announce him as Booster Gold. The name, however, stuck, and in a running joke throughout the DC universe, people often called him Buster instead. Booster would actually be originally based out of Metropolis, the home city of Superman. And he would start his superhero career by preventing the shape-shifting assassin Chiller, an operative of the 1000, from killing President Reagan and replacing him. With subsequent public exposure, Booster signs a multitude of commercial and movie deals. During his career, his sister Michelle Carter, powered by a magnetic suit, tries to follow in his footsteps as a superheroine, Gold Star. However, she would die battling creatures from another dimension, which utterly devastated Carter. Amassing a small fortune, he founded Gold Star Inc., which later became Booster Gold International, as a holding company, and hires Derek Davis to act as his agent. During the Millennium event, Davis reveals that he is a manhunter in disguise and siphoned money from Booster's accounts in the hope of leaving him no choice but to do the Manhunter's bidding. Although the Manhunters are ultimately defeated, Booster would be left bankrupt. He is also a key character in the late 80s, early 90s Justice League revamp done by Keith Giffen and J.M. Damascus. I think that's how you pronounce it. Booster is frequently partnered with fellow Justice League member Blue Beetle, or Ted Kord at this time, and the two would become quick friends. The duo's notable appearances including a stint as superhero repo men with the construction of a gambling resort, Club JLI, on the living island of... I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. And sorry about the dogs. But after one too many embarrassments, longing for his old reputation, Carter would then quit the League and found the Conglomerate, a superhero team whose funding is derived from corporate sponsors. Booster and his team were then determined to behave as legit heroes, but found that their sponsors compromised them far too often. The Conglomerate would reform several times after Booster rejoins the League, though it was not with much success. When an alien arrives on Earth and causes a path of destruction, Booster then coins the creature Doomsday for it. In the ensuing battle, though, Booster's costume is destroyed, and Blue Beetle is able to design a new, albeit bulkier costume to replace it, though this costume often malfunctions. During a later battle with Devastator, a servant of the Overmaster, Booster is nearly killed and loses his arm. Again, Blue Beetle comes to his aid, developing a suit that acts as a life support system in addition to replicating the powers of his previous costumes. This suit also included a cybernetic replacement arm. After the Justice League falls out, Booster joins a team called Extreme Justice, which would be led by Captain Nathaniel Atom, also known as Captain Atom. While a member of this team, he makes a deal with the supervillain Monarch, who fully heals Booster's wounds so that he can once again remove his battle suit. He dons a new costume created by Blue Beetle, and Skeets acts as its systems controller, who aids Booster and is able to take control of the costume if Booster is rendered unconscious. Following the disbandment of Extreme Justice, this suit is destroyed. A new costume is created by Professor Hamilton, based on the designs of both the original 25th century costume and the energy containment suit Superman was wearing at this time. This costume is apparently later tweaked to resemble Booster's original costume more closely. After the events depicted in the miniseries Identity Crisis, in which Sue Dibney is murdered, Booster retires briefly but then helps Blue Beetle discover who is manipulating Cord Industries. Booster is badly injured in an explosion at Cord's home, and it is revealed that his companion Skeets has been dismantled for its 25th century technology by the Checkmate organization. And in the OMAC Project, miniseries, Booster actually gathers the old JLI heroes to investigate Blue Beetle's disappearance. Almost said appearance. At the series end, he is ruined physically and emotionally, having destroyed much of his gear in the fight against the OMACs. He has seen his friend Rocket Red die in battle. He discovered that another friend, Maxwell Lord, is responsible for killing Blue Beetle, and in fact, Lord always hated superheroes. He stopped trusting the other DC heroes. In a moment of self-reflection, he realizes that if he had only bothered to recall more of what was history in his naive era, he might have been able to warn his friends. Giving a farewell kiss to the forehead of his wounded teammate Fire as she lay in a hospital bed, he drops his trademark goggles on the floor and leaves, saying only that he has decided to go home, implying a return to the 25th century. And in Infinite Crisis, Booster would then actually reappear in the ruins of the Justice League's watchtower on the moon, along with Skeets, again branded as a criminal in his own time for hijacking historical records. When Skeets fails to locate the absent Martian Manhunter, Booster searches for Jaime Reyes, the new Blue Beetle, whom he promptly takes to the Batcave. Booster tells Batman the subject of the stolen records. Batman never finds Brother Eye, but Booster implies that with Jaime's help they can succeed. The mission was successful, and Booster plays a pivotal role in the destruction of the satellite. In the aftermath of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman temporarily retiring their costumed identities, and the remaining heroes attend a funeral for Superboy in Metropolis, Booster then attends the memorial, but when Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman do not arrive as he expects, he suspects his robot counterpart Skeets is malfunctioning and becomes hysterical. After Skeets reports other inaccurate historical data, Booster searches fellow time traveler Rip Hunter's desert bunker for answers, finding it riddled with enigmatic scrawled notes. He finds photos of himself and Skeets surrounded by the words, "His fault," with arrows pointing toward them. Booster is seemingly angered when a mysterious new hero called Supernova appears. His reputation ruined, Booster tries to regain the spotlight by containing an explosion, but appears to be killed in the attempt. Skeets uses Booster's ancestor, Daniel Carter, to regain access to Hunter's lab, where he sees the photos and arrows pointing at him. Skeets traps Carter in a time loop in the bunker and sets out to locate Hunter himself. Supernova meets with Rip Hunter in the Bottle City at Kandor, and Hunter explains a number of high-tech items Supernova has brought with him. When Skeets discovers the two, Supernova reveals himself to be Booster Gold and fights him, revealing how he and Rip Hunter used time travel to fake his death and create a rivalry between Booster and himself as Supernova. Hunter and Booster attempt to trap Skeets in the Phantom Zone, but Skeets appears to eat the sub-dimension and pursues the two adversaries through time. He appears in World War III as he tries to actually steal a missile, but leaves after realizing that he appeared before it was launched. He later appears before Steel and Natasha Iron stealing the nanobot missile they were about to use on Black Adam, saying he needs it more than they and that it would not have worked for its original purpose anyway. He would then promptly disappear, and during his time-hopping mission, he briefly stops in the far future, robbing the Dominators of an experimental weapon designed to deal with time travelers. Trying to explain his situation to the alien warlords, he finds them suspicious as they mistake his rant of having to save 52 worlds as a warning that the Earth and 52 unnamed worlds are going to invade them after Booster's raid. He would then return to the present using T.O. Morrow as bait to draw out Skeets. Skeets reveals itself to be Mr. Mind in disguise, having used Skeets' shell as a cocoon to evolve into a being capable of devouring the multiverse. Booster and Rip flee into the time stream with Skeets' remains and return to the end of the Infinite Crisis. Rip and Booster would then witness the birth of the new multiverse made up of 52 identical worlds. Mr. Mind attempts to trap Booster and Rip in the Phantom Zone, which he devoured when it was turned upon him. But he is stopped by Supernova, now Daniel Carter, who was saved from the time loop he was trapped in by Rip and given Michael's outfit. Almost said outfit. There we go. Who restores the Phantom Zone to its original place. Mr. Mind then devours years or events from each of the 52 worlds, altering their history in the process. The real Skeets gives Booster a pep talk which inspires him to stop Mind. Little bit too much there, and I had to take a breath. Okay. Booster would then travel to the day after the end of the Crisis of Infinite Earths on New Earth, where he would retrieve the Blue Beetle Scarab from Ted Kord. Using the Scarab, along with the Suspendium stolen by Rip Hunter, Skeets' mangled shell, and Supernova's powers, Rip, Booster, and Daniel would trap Mr. Mind inside Skeets and hurl it into the time stream, trapping Mr. Mind within a repeated time loop of 52 seconds where he was captured by Dr. Sivana. As a reward for helping save the multiverse, Rip downloads Skeets' programming into a spare respondometer. Rip, Booster, and Daniel decide to keep the existence of the new multiverse a secret. Will Magnus would then repair Skeets using the respondometer. Though Skeets has no memory of the last year, however, Daniel Carter decides to keep the Supernova costume and begins his own superhero career. His resolution weakened with time. He started using the suit to play video games instead because he does not need to eat, drink, or sleep while wearing it. And in 1 year later, following the events of the graphic novel or mini-series 52, Booster would then return in his second solo series with the first story of 52 Pickup. Booster would then put a request into the JLA that they admit him, and the group begrudgingly decide to monitor him over the following week. However, Rip Hunter informs Booster that history has become malleable after Mr. Mind's rampage and earlier damage to the timeline. A new villainous Supernova arises after stealing Daniel's costume, and aided by the evil time traveler Rex Hunter, intends to exploit weaknesses in history. Keen on rewriting it and destroying the League, which are later revealed to in fact be working under the orders of the superhumanite Despero and Perdigaton. I can always never pronounce this villain's name. Degaton. As Booster is thought of as a buffoon, the person or persons behind the altering of the timeline will not suspect he is thwarting them, but Booster must maintain his poor reputation to protect himself. Booster's condition for following Rip's orders is that he may travel back in time to avert the death of his best friend, Ted Kord. Despite Rip's objections, Booster and the three Blue Beetles team up to rescue Kord moments before his death. They succeed, and the restored Blue-Gold duo deserts Rip Hunter to side with the Blue Beetle group. Rip reluctantly, by presenting Michael's ancestors, Daniel Carter and Rose Levin, with replicas of the Supernova and Booster Gold suits, stated that the Carter family's heroic legacy starts right frickin' now. When time solidifies following Kord's rescue and the other three Blue Beetles return to their own time, Ted and Michael find that as a consequence of changing the timeline, the world has become overrun by Maxwell Lord's OMACs. During the final battle between the remade JLI and the OMACs, the Time Stealers return and are defeated. However, Booster would suffer a tragedy when he is unable to stop Ted from entering a time sphere with the Black Beetle to change the past one final time, resetting history and sacrificing himself. When he is later teleported into the 853rd century, where he faces off against Peter Platinum, a con artist who is attempting to outdo Booster at making money off of heroic acts. When he returns to the present, he is enraged by Rip's unsympathetic responses to his ordeal and quits. Batman tells Booster that he knew about Booster's attempts to prevent the crippling of Barbara Gordon, and has long realized that Booster is not the fool he appears to be, offering his friendship. Booster resolves to continue working with Rip, even if it will not be fun. Rip then reveals that he is able to save Booster's sister Michelle from moments before she died, claiming there is a loophole due to Michelle being from the future. It is also revealed to the audience that Rip is in fact Booster's biological son. As Michelle and Michael go out to eat, Rip says, "Keep it up, Dad." Booster has shown his dedication, now calling himself a Time Master with Hunter, and he trains his sister to follow in the same exact footsteps. In a tie-in to the Blackest Night event, Booster would then face a resurrected Ted Kord, who had become a Black Lantern. At first it was unavailable due to reliving Ted's funeral in the past. He returns to meet his ancestor, Daniel Kord, until finding the crashed derelict bug at his house. He then would find the Black Lantern pummeling Jaime, the current Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, Daniel, and then Skeets. Being attacked by him, he removes Daniel and Rose from the scene and heads to Kord Industries to arm himself. He uses a special light gun designed by Ted to blast the corpse and separate the ring with light, stimulating the emotional spectrum. Upon separating the corpse from the ring, he collects Ted's remains before the ring can reanimate them and take them into the time sphere to Vanishing Point Fortress to secure them. He is somehow relieved when Skeets uses the Fortress's special chronal surveillance equipment to display images of the days of Team Blue and Gold. Jaime promises to live up to Kord's legacy, and they eventually form a new Blue and Gold team, with Booster being Jaime's mentor. They would find all evidence at a warehouse that someone else had entered. Even though the doors were genetically coded, only two people were cleared for access, Booster and Ted. And Booster's next move during the Brightest Day event would be that he would find his sister living in Coast City mere hours before its destruction. Although unable to save her boyfriend, Booster and Michelle patch up their relationship, with her agreeing not to leave him. This arc would introduce an older Booster Gold, the man who trained Rip Hunter and was the master of both time, the multiverse, and the hypertime. Rip reveals that this Booster is not only his father, but has also been watching Rip train the younger Booster, aiding him when needed. The older Booster also reveals that he is still married to Rip's mother, and that Michelle is with them at some unknown time. In Justice League Generation Lost, Booster is part of a manhunt to bring the resurrected Maxwell Lord to justice. He finds Max but is beaten badly. Fire, Ice, and Captain Atom arrive just as Maxwell Lord uses his psychic powers to the utmost degree to erase all memory of himself from the minds of the entire world. But for some reason, Booster, Fire, Ice, and Atom are the only ones who remember who Lord is, especially in recorded images. Trying to convince, at this time, Dick Grayson, who had taken up the mantle of Batman, Booster is horrified to learn that thanks to Max, the world believes that Ted Kord had committed suicide, and that he, Fire, Ice, and Captain Atom are soon to be set up by Max to be cut off from their allies. But ironically, Booster is left alone because of his reputation being so poor. And any of the remnants of what was once Justice League International are seemingly by chance joined back together with the successors of Rocket Red and Jaime Reyes, the new Blue Beetle. And Rocket Red declares the newly formed team as the new Justice League International, and this prompted Booster to figure out that Maxwell was manipulating them all to get together. Later, during an assault on Checkmate, Fire and Ice discuss how Booster has become the leader of the team. And when Jaime Reyes is kidnapped and tortured by Lord, he sends a signal to the rest of the JLI to lead them to Max's headquarters. However, they would arrive too late and Jaime would be shot in the head by Max, killing him in the same manner as Ted Kord. Booster is enraged by this and the team tries to take him down, but Lord manages to escape using one of his escape pods. And the JLI carries Jaime to the surface because it was an underwater base, and the paramedics would try to resuscitate him. However, their efforts would fail as Jaime seemingly was already dead. However, it would later be revealed that Jaime was not dead when in fact the Scarab managed to actually put up a strong metallic barrier to cover Jaime Reyes' brain and stop the bullet. However, at that time when they were dealing with the supposed loss of Jaime, Booster blamed himself for leading the team in so much danger and wanted to resign. However, the rest of the team, overhearing his rambling and grief, actually comfort. There we go. Sorry about that. Comfort Booster and tell him that he's actually done an extremely excellent job as leader and that they will follow him until the end, quote unquote. However, Booster, still being shocked and feeling guilty that he had led to Jaime's death, Jaime would then sit up, indicating that he was all right by the previous statement that I made. And he then tells the team that there is a way actually to stop Lord and that he figured out his ultimate plans. And it is actually at this point that after Jaime is revealed to be alive to the team, Batman and Power Girl join the team, and then to actually delay the JLI, Max would send any remaining OMACs to attack them, and while they're battling against OMAC Prime, Booster locates Max's flying headquarters and attacks it head-on, leading to an epic one-on-one confrontation between the two. And during the battle, he actually pulled Max out of the flying headquarters and they both ended up falling to Earth. He would save Max at the last minute, but Max would try to mind control him until he was confronted by Captain Atom, who forced him to undo the global mind wipe. However, Max would then teleport to escape, and afterwards, Booster and Batman would set out to recreate a new JLI. And basically, guys, from there, he was in Flashpoint, and he was trying to help the Flash restore the timeline, but inevitably, much like Barry Allen, he failed. And he was one of the 3 characters in the New 52, other than Bruce Wayne and the Flash, who knows that the New 52 universe is the alteration to the timeline. And he would actually be the leader of the JLI in the New 52. However, due to certain circumstances, he would eventually actually leave the team and teleport back to his home century. So that's it, guys. This is the final video of Batch 2, and I thought that I would end it with a character that I'm sure most of you have been long awaited to see. So with that, guys, as I always say, stay tuned for the next one, and I hope you enjoy Batch 3.